Alright guys, how's it going? I am the Crown Clown, and before we get started, I want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it is you guys are celebrating. I hope you guys have a great day, and that you guys stay safe if you're traveling. Even if you're not, I just wish you guys be safe and enjoy your day. So, this is What If Deku Was Smoker, Part 3. And as always, before we jump into things, if you guys like this content, please subscribe to the channel, click that notification button to be notified as soon as I upload another video, and click that link down in the description. Join the Discord. We have a good time, and you guys are actually going to be, needing the Discord to vote in an upcoming, special that I'm planning for New Year's. So, with that being said, let's jump right back into this with What If Deku Was Smoker, Part 3, where we last left off. Shiketsu High students Deku, Inasa, Kami, Seiji, and Mora were at the USJ with UA students. Quick altercation happened with Deku and Inasa, shit-talking Bakugo and Todoroki. So, they're being left to, try and get along while All Might, who is taking the place of 13, so 13 will not be there whatsoever. And he's talking to Yoroi and Aizawa. So, let's get right back into things. And Deku, he's pretty much just telling all the UA people what their quirks are, explaining it to them, and he's, requesting that they give him and Shiketsu all the details on their quirks as well, to ensure, pretty much an even trade of content. And they're kind of reserved against that because there's only 5 of them, and there's 20 of them. And the person who in UA, Class 1A that took Deku's spot is Kendo. Kendo is in Class 1A at this time. So, she's actually, against that and saying, well, there's only 5 of you, there's 20 of us. That's not a fair trade. And Deku's like, well, it's all of us who just divulged our abilities, so it would be fair for you all to divulge yours as well. Todoroki says, I don't see what the big deal is. Just knowing each other's quirks isn't going to give you a solid strategy. So Todoroki goes off saying he's half hot, half cold. He's got 2 quirks, fire and ice. And Bakugo's like, explosions, but you already know that, nerd. Ida, he tells him his, and then, everybody's going. And when he gets to Momo, and Momo starts explaining her quirk to him, he actually takes great interest in her quirk. He's like, so if you know the structure of something, then you could make it? Like, no needing materials, nothing like that. She's like, oh no, my body produces all of the materials. And Deku says, that is a great quirk. You're good for support in battle and could also be great in battle as well. And she's just like, oh, and Deku's like, yes, that's an amazing quirk to have. And, everyone's just kind of wondering what Deku's up to with flattering Momo like that. Even Cammy, she raises an eye, and she nudges him, and it's like, looks at him dirty, and he looks at her, he's like, what? I'm not talking anything like that. Like, get that out of your head. And she's just like, just looks away from him and just pouting for a little bit. Enos is actually kind of chuckling at this. And All Might comes back and it's like, alright, you guys good to go? Alright, we're going in. So, they go in there and, All Might's pretty much giving them the same speech that 13 did. And, that's when the villains attack. Kirigiri, Shigaraki, Nomu, and all, I'm going to say, instead of there being like around, what was it, like 60 or 70 in canon, there's 200 extra fodder villains in this. So, since 13's not there to kind of stop Kirigiri from, warp gating everybody around, everybody gets warp gated around. And Deku, he's actually sent over there with Momo, Kaminari, Jiro, but with the addition of Uraraka and Ida. In Todoroki's zone, you have Todoroki, you have, I'm going to say, let's see, Seiji's over there, and Mora is over there with him. In the fire zone, you have Tokoyami, Tail Guy. I'm going to say Sugar Rush is over there. Cammy gets put in there. So, yeah, that's pretty much all of the, main Shiketsu, but Mineta and Asui have Mina and Inasa over there. So that's all the Shiketsu students accounted for. And whoever else is, missing, you can kind of just put them anywhere you want except for with Deku or Inasa. So, yeah, that's basically the premise. Like, we can just say the rest of them got sent over there with Bakugo. So, the majority of the villains over there is just like, oh crap. But Deku, he's actually going to take the initiative here because they're facing like 50 villains, right there. Aizawa, Yoroi, and All Might, they're trying their best. And they can see Deku's group over there, like Aizawa can. He's running over there to get to them. And Deku just sees all the villains and he just puts up a smoke dome, locking them in there with him, Momo, Kaminari, and Jiro. They're all in there locked in. No one can get in or out of his smoke because it's that dense. It's like a metal wall. So Deku, he hands Jiro all the information she needs. Well, not Jiro, Momo, all the information she needs. And Jiro's just like, what is this? And Deku says, it's the composition of a Jite steel version. I need you to make me one. And then I'll be able to handle all these guys by myself. And she's like, there's 50 of them in here. Right? And she looks at Jiro. Jiro says, yeah, there's 50 of them in here. You're going to handle them all by yourself? And, Kaminari's like, dude, that's insane. No one of us could handle 50 villains by ourselves. And Deku's like, you don't know my fighting style. You don't know what I'm capable of. You've never seen me fight. Don't assume you guys are on my level. And when he says that, Kaminari's just like, dude, why are you being an asshole? He says, I'm not being an asshole. I'm being real with you. You guys only know my quirk. You don't know how I use it or the functionality of it. And, Kaminari's like, that's true, but still there's 50. And Deku says, 50? You think that's a big deal? And, he says, Yarozu, can you please make me the Jite? So she makes him the Jite, and Deku's pretty much pops in his 2 cigars and starts walking towards the villains. And he tells Jiro, if there's any of them that I can't see, use your quirk and tell me exactly their locations. And she says, well, there's one behind us over here. And that's when the electric dude tries to jump out. And Deku, extends his arm with the smoke that has the Jite in it. And he whacks the dude right across the face, fracturing his skull, dislocating his jaw. And, basically his eye sockets are collapsed just from the force of it. He's alive, but dude's not going to be waking up anytime within the next year. So Deku's like, is that the only one over there? And they're like, yeah. Kaminari saw that. And he's just like, the hell? And Deku recalls his arm and, he's like, alright, let's get started. So he's rushing at the villains and he's just letting them pass through him while he hits them with the Jite, turns his body into smoke and just kind of maneuvers around them while slamming the Jite into them, knocking them out, breaking their bones brutally. And for the last one, Deku just jumps right down out of the sky, pins him to the ground, and slams the Jite against the dude's spine so hard it just snaps the dude's spine in two pieces and permanently paralyzes him. So, yeah, Deku then lets down the smoke dome, and Aizawa's looking, and he sees all of the villains are down and bloodied. And he says, "Who did this?" And they all point at Deku, and Aizawa, he's astonished. He's just like, there's not even many pros that could do this. Man, Deku says, you know, took too long. And Aizawa's just like, what? I'm sorry, did you just say you took too long? And Deku says, yeah, I was planning to not have to exchange my cigars, after this fight. But I took so long, I ran out of a cigar. So he just spits out his cigars, puts two new ones in, and lights them. And Deku just pretty much uses his smoke to zip around the battlefield, knocking out as many villains as he can. And to like all the other students, it looks just like some white demon rushing around the battlefield, brutalizing villains, just chasing them down. And, everyone's just kind of in shock of that. The Shiketsu students know, and Inasa over there at the water zone, he's just creating a tornado in the water, which is sucking up the villains and the water. And then he creates another gust of wind, slamming them into the ground, knocking them out, and breaking a lot of their bones in the process. However, the water he relocates to another area so he doesn't end up drowning any of them. He doesn't want to be, a killer here. And Bakugo and his group, they're taking out the villains because it's a very large group. And over there at the zone where Todoroki is, him, Seiji, and Mora, they're all over there just, it's easy money for them. Todoroki is basically just freezing all of them, and Seiji's turning the ones he misses into meatballs, just lumps of flesh, and Mora's tangling them up and slamming them into the ground. So they pretty much clear it easy. And everyone is actually kind of shocked at how strong the Shiketsu students actually are. With Cammy and her group, she's just creating, illusions and all that. So, yeah. Oh, wait, I said Cammy was with Deku. My bad. So, yeah, Cammy just kind of sat back there with them. And so that all happens, and Deku is, being praised heavily by Yoroi, and Yoroi's just like, this guy is my top student for a reason to All Might, while him and Aizawa and All Might are taking down these fodder villains, because Nomu hasn't entered the battle yet. And Shigaraki, seeing that Deku's taking out so many of his forces, he tells Nomu, go kill that kid. All Might hears that, and he straight up rushes Nomu. He tackles Nomu like a football player and tosses him around like a shot put. All Might is not letting Nomu lay a finger on Deku, because that's his best friend's son. All Might's infuriated. Yoroi, he hears that, and he's rushing Shigaraki. He's like, no way in hell am I letting you endanger any of my students. They're going to be fine heroes one day. You have no future at all. And he slams his fist straight into Shigaraki's head, sending, Shigaraki flying. But, Kirigiri warp gate Shigaraki back, slowing him down and kind of catching him. And Shigaraki's really pissed by that, because it didn't knock him out, but it hurt like a bitch. So Kirigiri starts fighting Yoroi at this point. And Yoroi, he's not stupid, so he's able to figure out Kirigiri does have a physical body here somewhere. And as if on cue, Bakugo slams in, laying into Kirigiri's physical body at that point. And Yoroi's like, oh, thank you. Keep him there. I'm going to go help All Might with that bird thing. So he rushes over there, and Aizawa, he doesn't get hit. he does not take the beating that Nomu gave him because Yoroi and All Might are there. Two highly skilled heroes who are immensely powerful. So Deku actually appears right next to Aizawa. He's like, that's pretty much all of them in all the other zones. The only ones remaining are right here. Want me to help you out with that? And that's when Cammy starts showing off because she's kind of mad Deku stole all those, knockouts for himself. And she's creating her own illusions of herself. And she's rushing over there using her martial arts skills and taking a good amount of villains out. Like, she's taking out 10 villains in a minute with her illusions. Because she's confusing the hell out of them. And, Deku, he decides to help her out. He creates a smoke screen layer in that, main part of the USJ, covering up him and Cammy. Uraraka's still not doing anything because she's actually kind of still scared, senseless. She has, no idea what's going on. And, Shigaraki, he's had enough of this. He's rushing straight at Aizawa now, but he has to get through the smoke screen first. And Deku knows Shigaraki can cause some trouble just from the feel he's getting from him. So, in the smoke screen, Deku literally just grabs Shigaraki's arm and slams his knee into Shigaraki's back, puts his foot on his other arm, and slams the Jite into his neck, knocking Shigaraki out. Kirigiri, he can pretty much tell something happened to Shigaraki from hearing Shigaraki go, ah! So, Shigaraki's literally just out cold, can't give any orders anymore, and Deku lets up the smoke, and all the villains are pretty much done with now. And, him and Cammy just sort of high-five each other right there. And Kirigiri, he sees that, and he decides it's time to withdraw. So he starts warp-gating himself and putting up with the pain from Bakugo's explosions. And Bakugo eventually jumps off so he's not caught in the warp gate, himself. He goes over there, he warps gate Shigaraki, but he's pretty much not concerned with Nomu. To him, Nomu's expendable. All these other villains are expendable. So, him and Shigaraki get back, and, he's trying to clear everything up, and now all that's left to deal with is Nomu. And Aizawa tells him not to get in All Might or Yoroi's way. Let them handle this. And, everybody starts coming back to the center, and they're all just like, so what was that white flash, that was going around just chasing down those villains? And, Cammy says, oh, that was Deku right here. And they're just like, wait, him? And Momo comes over there with Jiro and Kaminari. Like, yeah, that was him. Uraraka, she was left outside of that container with Cammy. So they didn't see anything. But Cammy knows, and everybody, pretty much knows his power's smoke. And they can pretty much agree with that. So, Suyu, she goes over there and says, well, this guy right here is amazing as well. Just knocked out all the villains in that water zone by creating a rising water tornado. And Inasa says, not a water tornado, just a tornado itself. I control wind, remember, not water. And he says, but I did funnel the water off somewhere else so they wouldn't drown. But I'm pretty sure those guys are going to need extensive care to recover. And Aizawa just says they're villains. They don't deserve the care that you're talking about. And Deku's just like, I agree. They deserve to have the pain that's brought to them for trying to hurt other people and take their lives from them. So Deku's pretty much ideals of justice are very, black and white. Kind of like Smoker's was when he was a captain. His views on Monkey D. Luffy, all pirates bad, all marines good. That's basically like Deku. All villains bad, all heroes good. Because he really just kind of doesn't know about Endeavor's whole deal with Todoroki yet, and he's pretty much, just like, it doesn't matter, There are no good villains. There's no villains with a just cause or anything like that. So, you know, I always can sense, Deku's very strong sense of justice, and he asked him about that, how it was discovered, like, what made you have that strong sense of justice? Deku says, well, my dad, my biological dad, he was actually a, Marine in the Navy. He was an admiral, and he was killed on a mission. Even though he wanted nothing to do with me, he's abandoned me and my mother, all that. He still tried to impart his justice into me. And then, like, a few years later, my mom was killed by some random villain. She stumbled in upon a murder at the wrong time and was executed, no witnesses type of thing. So my adopted father, Tsukachi, he's pretty much, raised me with firm beliefs in the law and the rules and all that. And, they're just like, okay, I see now. And everyone hears that backstory and they're just like, well, dang, he went through a really rough time. And Todoroki, he's like, I know a thing or two about bad fathers, but I've never had the pleasure of having an actual father figure in my life. And Deku says, that's rough. I can understand if you hate your father for that. And he's like, yeah, I do, actually. And, while this is all going down, like, All Might is still fighting, Nomu over there. And everyone's just kind of chilling and watching because Nomu is being obliterated by All Might and Yoroi. Like, they are literally tag teaming that man so hard. Like, All Might, hits him with a right. Yoroi hits him with the left. All Might kicks him in the gut. Yoroi German suplexes him. All Might kicks him in the face. It is literally just a beat down on Nomu right now. And Nomu can't react to two super strong fighters at once. His shock absorption is just overtaxed at this point. He's taking so much damage. And All Might says, all right, time to end this. He, goes full power, punches him straight with an uppercut to the bottom of his chin, knocks Nomu even higher than in canon. Like, Nomu goes flying so far out. And, the police, they get there, they arrest everybody. Tsukachi is hysterical, though. He is pissed that his son was caught in this villain attack. And even though All Might's trying to calm him down, he's like, All Might, that's my fucking son in there. Like, you don't tell me to calm down. And, Deku runs out to his dad. He's like, hey, Dad, it's okay. We're fine. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was injured. We're all okay. And he asks, who was the ringleader out of these villains? And Deku says he got away. He used his, friend who had a warp gate quirk and they warped out of there. So we don't know exactly where they're at. And so All Might is like, that's true, but we did capture a rather large amount of villains here. 201 to be in fact. That is great. And, Yoroi, he's walking over there to Tsukachi. He's like, you have an amazing son here. He managed to take down 120 villains by himself. And, he's just like, what? He took down 120. And Yoroi says, yes, he was a spectacle to behold. All people said that they saw a white streak chasing down villains, almost as if he was a white chase, kind of. And Deku says, White Chase. I like that name. You know what? That's my hero name from now on. I'm the White Chase. So, Tsukachi's just like, are you sure you want that name? And Deku says, it fits me. White hair, white smoke, chasing down villains. Kind of self-explanatory. And they're just like, okay, sure. And, Yui says, that's a wonderful name to have, especially for your personality type of overall justice. And he's like, yeah, that's kind of the whole motive here. So that happens. All my, he walks out and, you know, he's just like taking a breath. Deku walks out of the USJ and All Might grabs Deku on the shoulder before Deku, can walk off. And he's like, we need to talk. I'm going to stop by your house later today after I make a statement at the police station. So me and you'll be talking later tonight. And Deku's like, okay, sure. Do we need to have dinner ready for you, or are you going to eat before you get there? And, All Might says, no, I'll eat dinner with you guys. So Deku's like, okay, cool. So school's dismissed for the day. They get back to Shiketsu. They change into their normal clothes, of course. Even though I said they brought them with them, like they just took their clothes with them and changed back at the school just for simplicity's sake of putting it back at the school and not having to just waste time there. But eventually the media did get a hold of this, and at the evening news when they're sitting down to have dinner and right before All Might, starts talking to Deku, news plays and they headline is White Chase ends 120 villains in USJ attack today. And Deku's just like, I made headlines? That's not good at all. That's way too much attention. And All Might tells him, look, you showed that you're a superb hero today. Of course you're going to be the headlines. You pull off more stuff like that, you're going to have a lot of attention on you. And Deku's like, that's the exact opposite of what I want to happen. And All Might's just like, well, then I guess you're really about to hate what I'm about to ask you now, huh? And Deku's like, what do you mean? What am I about to be asked to do? And All Might says, really simple. He plucks out a hair and he says, eat this. And Deku's like, oh no. No. I told you. I don't want nothing handed to me. And All Might says, it's not about handing it down to you. You've earned this. Today, you took out 120 villains by yourself. You saved a lot of the students. You take my quirk, become my successor because you've earned it. Not because you feel like it's indebted to you or I'm just giving it to you as a gift. No, you earned this. Now take it. And Deku says, fine, I'll take it. So he eats All Might's hair and he gains one for all. So with this increase in his power, All Might says, don't use that quirk yet. And he asks him, what Shiketsu planning to do, moving forward. And Deku says, don't know. We were told, before we left school that we would be off for about 3 weeks because of the villain attack. And, All Might says, okay, UA's doing the same thing, so I guess the boards are about to get together and determine what they should do moving forward. So, All Might says, with that being the case, how about we train tomorrow, you and me? We'll go someplace private. Actually, there's a place I was wanting to visit. I think it would be great if you came along with me. And Deku's like, okay, where are we going to go? And All Might tells him, we're going to Island. I have a friend there. His name's David Shield. I would like for you to come with me to meet him. And Deku's like, alright, fine. Is that where we're going to be training? And he's like, yeah, Dave has this new training station that he was wanting to, try and put me through to see if it could, gauge whether my abilities were dropping a lot faster or not. So we'll train there, just pack your bags and I'll pick you up tomorrow. And Deku says, alright, so, Tsukachi, he gets there and, he's just like, man, have you guys seen the news? everything is just blown out of proportion. And he's like, oh, did I walk in on something? And All Might says, no, you just missed me making your son my successor. And Tsukachi's like, wait, you actually took the quirk after whining that you didn't want it just handed to you? And Deku says, All Might said I earned it today. And he's like, well, if that's the case, it calls for a celebration. He goes to the cabinet, he whips out the sake, and he says, come on, All Might, tonight me and you are drinking, and you're staying here tonight. And All Might's like, but I have to, pack, I have to. And Deku's like, we're heading to Island tomorrow. He's going to introduce me to David's shield, and we're actually going to be training. And Tsukachi's like, that's even more of a reason to drink then. So he's not letting All Might off the hook until All Might has a couple of drinks with him. So Tsukachi, he's getting drunk with All Might, and he's, lecturing Deku, saying, look, you said that you didn't want to be in the spotlight, but you just brought yourself directly into everybody's media's focus. Like, they're going to be hunting you down to take pictures of you, get an interview, a statement. You're pretty much a celebrity at this point now, kid. And Deku's like, I think you've had too much to drink. So he takes the bottles and he, smokes his arm around him back into the cabinet and then attaches the bag. He's like, what did I tell you about using your quirk in the house? And Deku tells him, well, I'm pretty sure, that was okay. Because if I would have did it regularly, you just would have ripped it out of my hands. So that was the only way to get that bottle away from you. And All Might, he's wasted at this point. He's just out cold, sleeping. And Tsukachi, he's like, yeah, I'm going to go to bed. He says, night, All Might. Night, Izuku. And he heads on to bed. Deku, he goes out to the porch and he pops in his cigars and he starts smoking. And he's just like, Island should be fun. And, he's just like, not a big fan of being a successor, though. Oh, well, it'll just be my own thing. Secondary to my already amazing quirk of smoke out. So, he enjoys his cigars, and it's not like his normal cigars. No, he bought some expensive cigars that he only smokes on, special occasions. So, he's actually enjoying it. Anyways, next day comes and goes. All Might's, heading to his house with Deku, having an extreme hangover. Deku's already packed, so they're packing up All Might's stuff. They head to the airport, and All Might, he's pretty much just relaxing, sleeping on the plane ride to Island to kind of just get rid of his hangover and get himself refocused and everything. And Deku, he's just looking out at the sky. He's not smoking on a plane since, he was told he couldn't do that on a plane. So he's just, listening to music and looking at the scenery as it goes by. And he eventually, falls asleep and then, All Might wakes him up saying, hey, we landed. Wake up, grab your stuff, let's go. So, Deku, he has stopped at security because they're wondering why he's carrying around a Jite. And All Might says, oh, he's with me. I gave him special permission. They're like, oh, okay, All Might. So they head on to Island, and David, he's right there with his daughter Melissa to meet All Might. They didn't know Deku was coming, because All Might said is that he's be visiting today. So All Might, he's there with them, and David's just like, hey, All Might, who's the kid? And he says, oh, this is Izuku Midoriya, my friend Tsukachi Namasa's adopted son. And, he's like, wait a minute, the same guy who's been called the White Chase of Shiketsu. And Deku's just like, wait, you guys heard about that? It's only been a day, and he's like a hero student taking out 120 villains by himself is extremely impressive and worldwide news. That's been unprecedented. Even in All Might's day, he's never done anything that great as a school guy. And, All Might's like, hey, aren't you, underselling me a bit? And, David's like, no, not at all. You did amazing things in your college years, but as a high school first year, you didn't do anything close to that. And All Might's just like, I have to admit, you are right. And, Deku's wondering, what their relationship is. And, they tell him that they're old college buddies. When All Might was in America, David was his best friend and helped him, do, well in his hero life. And he's actually the man that's made all of his costumes and everything. And, David looks at Deku and he's like, oh, is that your hero costume in there? And Deku's like, yeah, something like that. And, he got, permission from Suketsu to, kind of just use it to train with, but, he still has to wear the hat. So, they go back to the lab and, All Might's basically telling, David that, oh, he's actually not that bad off. And, he's like, I'll be the judge of that. Sit down here. And he tells Melissa to, kind of show Deku around the island. And, Melissa does this and, she's just like, I'm sorry about my dad, but he just wanted some time to catch up with All Might. And Deku's like, yeah, I'm not so sure about that. And, they're just like, why? Why do you think that? And Deku tells Melissa, look, you don't just see that expression on your dad's face saying that he wants to be alone with All Might if they just want to catch up. And, Melissa, she's just like, okay, so you think there's something going on? And Deku says, yeah, probably, but, if it was important, All Might would tell me. And she's like, oh, okay, what's your relationship with All Might? And Deku says, well, he's, my father's best friend, so he's kind of like an uncle to me in a way. And she's like, oh, okay, sure, I got that. And, she's like, so are you planning to stick around the island long? And Deku, he's just like, don't know. It all depends on All Might, actually. I only came because All Might asked me to. He wants to train me, I guess. She's like, wait, you're going to be trained by All Might himself? She says, that's amazing. Training from the number one hero. That's got to be exciting. And Deku's like, you really think so? I mean, it's just training. I mean, I did training all my life. All Might would always give me a few pointers here and there, so I guess it's not that big of a surprise or that big of a deal to me. But I guess to someone who hasn't really been around All Might all that much, him suddenly training you would be exciting, I guess? I really don't know. So, anyways, what's your whole deal here? Like, what's your quirk? And she's like, oh, I'm actually quirkless. And Deku's just like, that's so rare. How did that happen? She's like, don't know. I was just born quirkless. I've never had a quirk in my life. And Deku's just like, I'm so sorry to hear that. She's like, oh no, it's no big deal. After all, at first when I was a little girl, I did want to be a hero, but I figured out, following in my father's footsteps should, be what I decide to do. Be a better inventor than my father ever was. And Deku's just like, that's a great idea. And she's just like, yeah, so I don't want to lose to anybody. Not now, not ever. So Deku says, that's the right idea to have. And, they eventually get to that whole mountain thing where they have the robots at. And she asks Deku, would you mind showing me how your quirk works? And, Deku's just like, sure. No problem. So he goes over there and oddly enough, he sees somebody's already trying to attempt it. And it's someone he knows. Inasa. Inasa is there and he clears it in about, I'm going to say 16 seconds. So Deku's just like, dang, you cleared it in 16 seconds? That's amazing. And he's like, oh, are you going to try to do it now, Deku? And Deku's like, yeah, I'm going to try it, all right. But first, how did you get onto this island? And he says, oh, my family actually, told me that I should take a little bit of a vacation. I heard that you were going to Island, so I asked All Might if he had a spare ticket. He did, so All Might kind of invited me out here. And he's like, huh, he didn't tell me he was going to be inviting you over here. And Inasa's like, he didn't? That's strange. And Deku's like, yeah, very strange. Anyways, we'll ask him together once we, meet back up with him. So, let's give this a try. The lady, she says, on your mark, get set, go. And Deku immediately just smokes it out, condenses the smoke, and crushes every robot without even moving a step. And they say 10 seconds flat. And everyone's looking at him like 10 seconds? That's insanity. Even Inasa's just like, dude, when did you get so good with pinpoint manipulation of atomic structures? And Deku's just like, well, I don't know. And he thinks, could this be a side effect of One for All? Enhancing my quirk? So he's pretty much thinking that that's the case of it. And anyways, it just made him a crap ton stronger. Normally it would take him about 10 seconds to even formalize it, not, considering crushing something to death. So he's actually pretty happy about his new power-up. Because I'm not going to have it to where One for All just, completely replaces his quirk. I'm going to say it enhances his quirk. Kind of like how it enhanced Bakugo's explosion in the movie, Heroes Rising. It's just enhancing Deku's smoke and enhancing his physical strength. That's it. So, Deku's very happy about that, and Melissa's astonished. She's just like, that's incredible. You completely, destroy those. You have a smoke-based quirk? And Deku's like, yeah. She's like, you broke every record that was ever put on there. She's like, nobody's even come close except for this guy to 10 seconds. And, Deku's like, yeah, and I was just a bit slow to react on that. I wonder if I could get it faster. And she's like, I don't know. But at that moment, she gets a call. It's from her dad. And she's like, okay, come on. My dad's ready with All Might. They want to see us in the new training zone he created. So they head on back, and Deku says, come on, Inasa, let's go. And Inasa's like, right. So they head on back over there, and, pretty much All Might says, Inasa, you made it. I'm sorry that we didn't pick you up ourselves. And Inasa's like, no, that's fine. I just asked you for the ticket. I paid enough for my flight and lodging over here. Man, All Might's like, no, you don't have to pay. You can room with me and Izuku. And Deku's like, I don't mind it. You're pretty much family already, Inasa. And Inasa's actually really happy to hear Deku say that. So, he goes over there and All Might says, alright, so, for your training, this is what you're going to do. You and Inasa are going to fight, no holds barred. But it's not going to be that simple. You won't just be fighting Inasa. You'll also be fighting me as well as Inasa. And Deku's just like, what? And All Might tells him, get ready. Training starts now. And that's where I'm going to be leaving it off. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, I'd appreciate if you guys left me a like, comment down below, subscribe if you're new, click that notification button to get notified every time I upload a new video, click that link down in the description to join the Discord, and as always, I am the Crown Clown, and I'll see you clown pirates later.